This is Dying Your Way.
Welcome everyone to the Dying Your Way podcast. I'm Claire O'Berry. Today's episode is going to be a little different. It's not a training per se. It's not a checklist. It's not a topic that I feel particularly comfortable or confident speaking on from a place of expertise. But it is a really important part of any end-of-life journey. In fact, it's a conversation that I've been preparing for and truthfully avoiding for a very, very long time. But before we begin, I want to let you know that this episode does contain personal stories of loss and grief and anticipatory grief. And if these topics would feel uncomfortable or triggering for you, just please take care of yourself while you're listening. Pause if you need to, or even come back when you feel ready for it. And if you're grieving right now, just know that you're not alone and support is available. And in the show notes, I'll be giving the support numbers that are available in Australia and the United States. So particularly if you or someone you love is thinking of self-harm or harming others, it's important to make that disclaimer. So I've spent the last 2 decades now learning about and talking about death and dying. And I know how to prepare, how to plan, how to support loved ones, and how to bring meaning and dignity to the end of life. But grief has always made me personally uncomfortable. So when I'm working with clients, I'm certainly compassionate and empathetic, but I'm there for them and for the patient, but I'm there from the diagnosis until the time of death. And then really, my work is done and I move on to help the next family. So grief support has never been part of my job. And I'm just being honest with you about this. And in a way, it is by design. Though I certainly do provide, and you can see it on the Dying Your Way website, excellent resources and referrals to those needing extra support, which I always recommend. Everybody's journey on grief and bereavement is going to be different, and we're going to spend the next couple of weeks exploring this topic because it is so important. And I think it's important to give context, to just sort of share with you my own experience of it. And I'll start by just saying it's just not neatly wrapped up with closure, or does it have profound wisdom? Was messy, and it was very painful, is very painful, and it's still very much inside of me every day. So I want to cover grief and bereavement, but I don't even suggest for a minute that I'm in a position to teach you about grief. I am here just to tell the truth about my relationship with it for whatever it's worth. My intention of these next 2 weeks is to validate your experience going through grief and sharing valuable resources. And next week we will really expand on that. So let me go back to 1985, which is when my husband David unexpectedly died. And there's just a lot wrapped up, so much wrapped up in that one statement. Just 2 weeks before his death, we had divorced. So on paper, we were no longer husband and wife. But the truth is that we still loved each other very much. And that love did not end with a legal signature. It was still there. It was still very much alive, and it was still very real. The day before he died, I mean, the last thing he told me was that he loved me. So, I mean, was all of that bittersweet stuff going on even before he died. Okay, so when he actually did die, it was just deep emotions, that had been around the divorce and separation and divorce and the circumstances of the divorce. That was already there. And then his sudden death just compounded. And I was young. So, I mean, I wasn't the person I am today, but I was like overwhelmed with deep emotions that just did not seem to have any appropriate place to go. Just because we were divorced, my grief really wasn't recognized. And you've heard me talk about, the importance of funerals and rituals, and, how important it is for the person left behind to be reintroduced into society in their new role. I didn't get that. And people just didn't know how to respond to me. And one person very, very close to me even stated they didn't think it would matter to me because of the divorce. So that was a real, metaphorical slap in the face. But there was a cultural unspoken message that I didn't deserve to grieve in the same way a spouse would. But I was the one who planned his funeral. I was the one who closed his estate. And I was the one trying to understand how someone I still love could be gone in an instant. So I silently fell apart, and what followed was complicated, unsupported grief. And I spiraled, making decisions out of pain, out of numbness, and confusion that affected not just me, but my children too. So I tried to hide my grief and push it down. I don't think I did a really good job of it, but I tried. And I was trying to pretend that everything was okay, and everything was not okay. If I could go back and talk to that younger version of myself now, the things I would say is that the roller coaster you're about to go on for weeks and months and years, that roller coaster of grief, it's normal. And I would try to tell that younger self of mine that her pain was very real, even if the world didn't see it. And I would also tell her that she didn't have to do it all alone. There weren't the resources then that there are now, but I didn't have to suffer that alone. If I'd known where to reach out, I didn't have to do it alone. But I didn't know that then, and so I just avoided my grief the best way that I knew how for a very, very, very long time. Like I say, impacting myself, but impacting other people as well. So some learned lessons from grief I have is that it just doesn't expire. It doesn't leave. It morphs, and it becomes part of the fabric of who we are. And even now, all these years later, I can be moving through my day and something will stop me, a song, a memory, the smell of jasmine blossoms in the night air. And I'm right back there, smiling and tearing up all at the same time. And that's the thing about grief. Those sense memories live inside us. And as poignant as it is, nostalgic as it is, I don't know now that I would necessarily want that to go away. It's just there. So now it's showing up again, but in a very different way, because the truth is I'm grieving again. And it's not because I've lost someone, but because I know I will. My husband, Terry, is my late life gift. He's my companion and my safe place, the person I trust the most in this world. And he's been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And he has given me permission on this podcast to discuss his diagnosis. So just putting that out there. And while he's still very much here, I mean, he will not die of Parkinson's. He will die with it. And, but we know it's going to progress. And right now our days are still filled with love and blessedly ordinary moments. But we know what's coming, and I know this road. And if we had a choice, we would say, no thanks, don't want this. But here is life lifing us. And the good news in this is that I am a really strong advocate, and I can bring and will bring every end of life tool that I've ever taught right into this situation. I know how to plan, and I know how to prepare, and I know how to get second opinions and find the very best community resources. And I know how to create a soft landing when the time comes. But the part I don't know how to do, and the part I don't want to do, is to imagine life without him. So this has a name, and it's called anticipatory grief. Grieving the road ahead, grieving the loss of a loved one, or grieving something that is still here, but you're something you're going to lose. And it's a whole different kind of ache. And yeah, it's just a different kind of ache when it's inevitable and when it's personal. So I don't have that professional detachment in this circumstance. It's a combination of love and fear and hope and heartbreak, of presence and absence, and it's all tangled together. Some days I handle it better than others. I have you as an outlet. But yeah. So anyway, where does that leave me? Where does that leave us? Well, some days I really feel like that I've learned a lot about grief. I've interviewed for this podcast people like Ken Ross, son of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who he continues her legacy on grief literacy, which is so important. And I've also interviewed Michelle Neff Hernandez, who is the founder of Soaring Spirits International. And that's an organization that helps people rebuild their lives after the death of a spouse. From them and the bedside of so many, And from my own journey, I've learned that grief is not a problem to be solved. It's a life experience we all will share. And it's not a wound that fully heals. It's a scar that becomes part of who we are. And I would even argue that it adds richness and texture to our lives. I think that's true. But there's so much that I don't know. That's why I'm not teaching here. I'm just sharing. And I don't know how to stop dreading the day that I might lose Terry if he should go first. And I want to love him fully in the present moment without bracing for the future all the time. And if there's a way to know how to better prepare without letting it steal the joy of each day or each precious moment we have together, that's something I'm learning right now. And I do know this, that grief is not the opposite of love. It is love. And I'm navigating being human just like the rest of you. So I wanted to share this before bringing with you the next conversation in our next episode, because I felt like it needed some context. My guest knows grief intimately too. In our next episode, I'll be speaking with Prema Paxton, who lost her precious son Lance, which will be her story to tell. And losing a child of any age must be the worst kind of grief, especially due to any tragic or unexpected circumstances. What I really admire about Prema is that she has transformed her grief into a mission of compassionate, becoming a support for other parents navigating this unimaginable loss. And she's particularly doing this through an organization called Love in the Trenches. And her story is one of heartbreak, resilience, and hope. But before we hear her wisdom next week, I wanted you to know where I am on this journey, not as a guide with all the answers, but as a fellow traveler who is still figuring it all out, still grieving and still loving and still learning. So if you are grieving for someone you lost long ago, or someone you lost recently, or someone you haven't yet lost but know that you will, I want you to know that you're not alone. Certainly your feelings are valid and your love is real. I don't need to tell you that. These are things you know. I am saying that your story matters, and from my experience, there is no timetable. There is no right way to grieve. And there is only your way. And if that way is messy or complicated or unpredictable or still unfolding after decades, you are in great company. So I'll hope you will all join us for our conversation with Prema next week. And together we'll continue to explore this tender, complicated, beautiful part of being human, a part that hurts because we love so much. So until then, please be gentle with yourself and remember, grief isn't a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a sign that someone meant the world to you. And remember to check the show notes if you've been struggling with grief or there are some thoughts of hopelessness or self-harm that you have, I'll just say it here. It's in the United States, you dial 988. And in the Australia support for 24/7 support is Lifeline, which is 13 11 14. You are not alone. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on Dying Your Way. If it's inspired you, then please spread the word. Leave a rating and review so others can find out about us. To learn more, connect with us on Facebook or our website at dyingyourway.com. A special thank you for the artist Mel Dobra for letting us use her song, Smoke and Flame, as the soundtrack of our show. I invite you to return, hear each episode, and be part of the conversation on death literacy. I am Claire O'Berry, and this is Dying Your Way.